Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge and happy Valentine's week. I don't know which day this week this is going up, but I have a couple videos planned for Valentine's week, the week of love, since Valentine's Day is on Tuesday, which, you know, Taco Tuesday, Taco Day, that could be fun. Cool. But if you're single like me or you're in a relationship and you still want to be reading romance on Valentine's Day, I am going to go through some books that you guys recommended as the most romantic books you've ever read. So the way we're actually going to do this, though, I'm very excited. I wasn't sure how I wanted to go through these, but I took the first 25 books that were recommended to me. So that means I know some of you, because I put up a question in my YouTube community page, and I had a lot of people who gave me multiple books, which I totally understand because it's very difficult to pick one book that's very romantic to you. I completely understand. But in order to give everyone a chance, I went ahead and sorry, I was getting a phone call. I went ahead and just picked the first one that people recommended until I got to 25. And we're going to do this as a have I read this, will I read this, which I've done this video before. I believe this was my friend Jessen's idea for a video. I'm not 100%. This could have been, we did these like back in the fall last year. I know that a bunch of us made them. This could have been Samantha, or like I know that like a bunch of us did this. So I'll maybe link like a couple of them down below because I'm not trying to steal credit from it. I just can't remember off the top of my head whose video it was first. So when I find out, it will be down below, okay? But it was people recommended all these different books and they asked me, you know, they basically were asking like, have you read this or will you read this? And I had a lot of fun doing that. I actually read quite a few books because they were on that list. And I thought it would be fun to do this with your guys' recommendations for the most romantic books you've ever read. So what I did is I made a list, like I said, of 25 of them. And the ones that I have read, I'll tell you if I agree or disagree that they are a very romantic book. Granted, remember, they're all romances, what people have listed. They are all romances. But this is just going to be my personal opinion and if I think they're very romantic or not. So don't take it harshly. Don't feel bad about it if I don't. Like, I'm not going to say who said what, but it's just going to be my thoughts on like if I think it's a very romantic one or not. And then if I haven't read it, I have my small laptop with me. Look, all my cute stickers. And I will pull up the book on Goodreads and read the description of it. And I'll let you know if I'm willing to read it. So that'll be the like, have I read it? Will I read it part of it? Okay? Does that sound good? We're going to get through these because I think some of these I will end up talking about for a very long time. So the first one we have is Dear Ava by Ilsa Madden Mills. And this is one that I have not read. So I've definitely seen this one around. So let me read the description and I'll tell you, have I read it or will I read it? It says, the rich and popular sharks rule at prestigious ivy-covered Camden Prep. Once upon a time, I wanted to be a part of their world until they destroyed me. The last thing I expected was an anonymous love letter from one of them. Please, I hate every one of those jerks for what they did to me. The question is, which shark is my secret admirer? Knox, the scarred quarterback, Dane, his twin, or Chance, the ex who dumped me? Dear Ava, your eyes are the color of the Caribbean Sea. Wait, that's stupid. Wait, what I really mean is you look at me and I feel something real. It's been 10 months since you were here, but I can't forget you. I've missed seeing you. I've missed you cheering me on. I've missed the smell of your hair and and then everything fell apart the night of the kegger. Please don't hate me because I'm a shark. I just want to make you mine still. So I know obviously this one is an epistolatory romance. I believe this one was like, they previously were like a bully, maybe, is what it sounds like. And I know that a few of my friends have really loved this one. So I would say I would be willing to read this one. I've only read one other book by Ilsa Madden Mills as well. So that one's added to the TBR. So there we go. All right, then we have Blue-Eyed Devil by Lisa Kleypas. Spoiler alert, there are going to be a few Lisa Kleypas that show up, but we're going to do them in the order that they were recommended. So this is one of her contemporaries. This is book 2 in the Travis series. This book has spousal abuse, not by the hero. And this is about a heroine who she ends up being like isolated and disconnected from her family because of the man that she marries. And then he abuses her and like kicks her out of the house. And she ends up going home and then falling in love with someone there and kind of having to start over. I would definitely say that this is a very romantic story. This one does lean more towards a women's fiction, in my opinion. It is romance, it is Lisa Kleypas, but it definitely is about the journey of the heroine in this book, and I don't think that that's a bad thing. It's a beautiful journey. It's a very real journey. And so, yeah, I would definitely say that this one is romantic. I don't think it's on the top of, like, my list for one, but it definitely is. So then the next book, and this one I had to make tally marks because there was 8 votes for this book. There was 8 votes for this book, and that is Outlander by Diana Gabaldon. Now, first off, this book is technically not a romance. This is historical fiction. There's a bit of fantasy fiction. This is time travel. In case you live under a rock and don't know, this is generally shelved under just regular fiction. But this is definitely the start of one of my favorite romances ever. If you watch my very original book where I did my favorite relationships and most romantic relationships ever, I would say Jamie and Claire are high on this list. I also love a lot of romances that take place through this series, not just Jamie and Claire. So without a doubt, 1000% I agree with this one, and I know that I was definitely stacking the deck for myself because this is my channel and a lot of you are here because I love Outlander. So this is probably my personal most romantic like couple. I don't know that I'd say the book is the most romantic books, but it's the most romantic relationship that I've read, and it guts me all the time. So we're definitely adding that right there for sure. Then we have Lessons in Corruption by Giana Darling. This one is about Cress and King, and this is the first book in the Fallen Men series. I have the beautiful covers, the female covers for this series. This is an age gap with an older woman who is a teacher. She's in her 20s, and the hero is 18. She actually sees the hero for the first time before she is his teacher. He's a very bad boy. He definitely has more like I'm a man vibes than any other teenager you've ever seen. He's a badass biker. And he is the like heir to the Fallen Men biker gang, right? So I would say this book is very romantic. A lot of things about this. Cress is getting out of a marriage that, well, I wouldn't call it completely like abusive. It was definitely very stifling, and she was definitely supposed to fit into a certain like narrative for her husband, and she was very like treated like a child by her husband, who he himself is like old, 10 I think years older than her. And I feel like King is very romantic. Like, he, like, writes poetry to her, which is funny because I think she's his English teacher. So, I mean, I think there was also assignments for him to read it. So, I think that Giana Darling's writing has a quality that is very romantic, to its detriment sometimes, where she overwrites things at times. I've shared that, but I don't feel that way about this book. I love this book. I think it is very romantic. I love this couple. This is one of hers that I do want to reread sometime soon. The first couple books in this series I want to reread sometime soon, but yeah, I would definitely say this is a pretty romantic one. Then we have another LK entry. We have Devil in Winter. This is book 3. This one is Sebastian and Evie, and they start this with a marriage of convenience. Evie needs a husband so she can get out from under the thumb of her family who's trying to force her to marry who they want her to marry, and he needs the money. So they marry each other in Gretna Green, and then he comes back and takes over her father's club, which is in disrepair and falling apart, his gambling hell. And Sebastian really has to grow up a lot. He was a kind of sort of villain in book 2, where he causes a lot of problems for our hero and heroine in that book. And in this one, he is the hero. And this is a lot of people's favorite Lisa Kleypas book. And while I will say that I love Sebastian St. Vincent and Evie, I think their relationship is beautiful. I love watching the arc of their relationship from when they first meet each other to all the way into Devil in Disguise, where they are in their, you know, they're not, I don't want to call them like advanced age, but they're in their 50s. And seeing how their relationship, they're still like gaga for each other. It's really beautiful. Now, for me, again, these are all romances, but I wouldn't call this one of the most romantic ones that I've read. I know that might be controversial. I know it might. But there are other Lisa Kleypas that are much more romantic to me than this one is. But again, this is subjective. I'm not saying it's unromantic, but some of these, I have to say, aren't as romantic as others. Like, that's the point of the video. But on the whole, I say the only reason this one isn't high on my list is because Lisa Kleypas is such a good writer that I have a lot of other books that are higher on the list than this one is. But I feel her books are amazing. So that isn't a diss to Lisa Kleypas, okay? It's not. Then we have one I haven't read, but that I own. Someone put Honor's Splendor by Julie Garwood. So I'm going to read the back of this one. I need the light here. This one says, in the feuding English court, gentle Lady Madeline suffers the cruel whims of her ruthless brother, Baron Loudon. Then, in vengeance for a bitter crime, Baron Duncan of Wexton, the wolf, unleashed his warriors against Loudon's domain. It's very hard to read the back of this. Exquisite Madeline was the prize he captured, but when he gazed upon the proud beauty, he pledged to protect her with his life. In his rough-hewn castle, Duncan proved true to his honor, but when at last their noble passion conquered them both, she surrendered with all her soul. Now, for love, Madeline would stand fast, as bravely as her lord, the powerful wolf who fought for Honor's Splendor. Ooh. So I got a little bit scared off by Julie Garwood after reading Castles, which didn't work for me very well. But I want to read more of her books, and this is one that comes up pretty regularly. So I definitely, have I read it, will I read it? I haven't read it. Yes, I would read it. We'll put it in that category. Yes, I would read this. So absolutely. Can't say how romantic it is yet, but I will give it a go. Then the next one is With Us by J.M. Walker. So I have not read this one. So let's pull this one up on my Goodreads. And ooh, this one looks like a menage. Let's see what this one says. Yes, this one is a menage. It says, Shade. She was young, sweet, feisty. But then there was him. We had been best friends for years. We lived together, rode together, shared women together, and it still wasn't enough. Not for him, and especially not for me. Sunny. He was mine, I was his, she was ours. Meadow Rodriguez strutted into our lives and looked at us like we were all that mattered. Well, I wanted to dominate her, he wanted to submit, and she wanted both. Ooh, I like this idea. I took control, giving her everything she needed, and at the same time grew closer with Shade, my best friend, my partner, my life. Although we were close, there was still a wedge between us. I was terrified to give him what he needed, my heart. Meadow. Sunny was intense, Shade hid. I was new. They were in love but wouldn't admit it. Guilt resonated on Sunny's shoulders. The weight of Shade's feelings rested on his, and I was the glue that would bring them together. But little did I know that I would end up falling in love with both of them. very interested about this. So this is actually one, according to my Goodreads shelf, I already have this on my want to read because this was put into my book recommendation form. So definitely one that I do plan to read. I really like the sound of this. I may want to read this one soon. I haven't read, well, that's not true. I read Wicked Beauty just a couple weeks ago, and that was a menage. But I haven't read many menages lately that have been, like, very romantic. I've just read a lot of, like, horny ones, which is okay. But I really like a good, deep romantic menage where it's not just because it's sexy. So I'm definitely going to say yes. Would I read it? Yes. And I definitely will because it's on my viewer recommendation form. So someday we'll get to it. And speaking of menages, someone said Breaking Perfect by Lydia Michaels, which actually just got a beautiful new cover because Lydia Michaels is getting like all of her books recovered, but I still have like an OG copy that I'm very happy with, like super awkward formatting and everything, because I read this book quite a few years ago now. It came out in 2013 and I read it a couple years back, but this is a menage between a married couple. There's an age gap between them. The heroine has OCD pretty badly, and he was actually her doctor who helped get her out of a bad like living situation, and then they ended up falling in love. And he is a dom, but he's never exerted those tendencies over her because he's never wanted to like scar her or make her uncomfortable. But when our hero Mason, his ex-lover, who he was in a long-term relationship with, comes into their lives, and this ex-lover is a man, he comes into their lives, and Liberty is very interested in him as well, and there's kind of this, like, there's a dynamic between the three of them that gets started that includes BDSM and power dynamics, and it's very interesting. I do find this book extremely romantic. There are some elements of of cheating that happen in this book. And it's interesting how it happens though, because like the husband gives the wife permission to be experimenting because he's trying to find out if she would like to be with his ex-lover as well. But the wife isn't like told that he is also messing around with his ex-lover again. And so there is some like communication that needs to happen that doesn't. But I really do love this book. This is one that has my heart from quite a long time ago. You can tell I've like annotated the crap out of this one. So yeah, I mean, I would definitely call it romantic. It definitely has a few things that I would see as triggers now that I like didn't beforehand, but I definitely would call this romantic. It's really great. Once their communication gets on track, like it's very good. And I like that. All right. Next, someone just put Anything by Krista and Becca Ritchie, which doesn't completely help for this because I'm trying to pick certain books, not just authors, but I know some people were very excited and they were like, read all of these things. So I just grabbed one of my books because I have some of Krista and Becca Ritchie's books. So I picked up Kiss the Sky, which is the first one in the Calloway sisters, which this interlocks with the Addicted to You series. And so their stories interlock. And so this one is between Rose and Connor, but you get to see like all the other characters. They end up having a reality show about their family. They're a very rich, wealthy family, and there's 3 sisters, and then there are 2 brothers and like a guy best friend. So there's like 6 people. And Rose is the oldest. She is very like controlled. And Connor, he is this guy who is just like a bulldozer. He's bisexual, he is a dominant, and he has wanted Rose for a long time. They are like direct competitors in their like academics and in like business, and he finally is like making a play for her. Now again, people said these books as a whole, and I would agree, they have a very romantic writing style with them. If you read the entire Addicted and Calloway series, there is a total of like 13 books, I think. There's 10. And then there's a spin-off series about the children. So I am thinking back to my nostalgic feelings. Like, that's what I want to do. I want to think back to my nostalgic feelings for this series. I read this series like 3 years ago, and I devoured it. I loved it. Obviously, I have copies of them. So I would say that they write romantically. I don't have those same feels for them now as I did then, but the first time through this series, I was so in love with Connor and with Rose and Reich and Daisy. So I would say that, like, I see this as romantic when I look back to my nostalgic feelings. So there we go. Next, of course, Avery mentioned The Silent Waters by Brittainy C. Cherry. This book is part of the, I have not read this yet. I've only read the first book in this series so far. They're all very emotional books, and I do plan to read this one, but let me read the blurb just real quick. This one says, "Our lives are a collection of moments, some utterly painful and some full of yesterday's hurts, some beautifully hopeful and full of tomorrow's promises. I've made many moments in my lifetime, moments that changed me, challenged me, moments that scared me and engulfed me. However, the biggest ones, the most heartbreaking and breathtaking ones, all included him. I was 10 years old when I lost my voice. A piece of me was stolen away, and the only person who could truly hear my silence was Brooks Griffin. He was the light during my dark days, the promise of tomorrow, until tragedy found him, tragedy that eventually drowned him in a sea of memories. This is the story of a boy and a girl who loved each other but didn't love themselves, a story of life and death, of love and broken promises, of moments." So, have I read this? No. Will I read this? Yes. Am I terrified? Also, yes. Because I've only read one of her books, and it was very emotional. And I know how much people love this book, so I know it's going to be very emotional. I am still going to read it. I don't know when, but I will. I will read this one. All right, then we had The Duke with the Dragon Tattoo. This is by Kerrigan Byrne. This is book 6 in the Victorian Rebel series. I would call this romantic. I would call this romantic. I don't think it's the most romantic book by Kerrigan Byrne, but this one does have like a childhood love. This one has amnesia. This has a like pirate king. This one is like the culmination of a lot of the things that happen in the Victorian Rebels. Yeah, I would call it romantic, but I don't think it is like the most romantic by this author. So, but I always recommend Kerrigan Byrne. Definitely not dissing the book. Again, same way about this. Some of them just can't be the most romantic. That's how it goes. Pride and Prejudice. Yes. 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 That one was quick. Radiance by Grace Draven. I don't have a copy of this one yet. This is a slow burn, arranged marriage, monster type and human. I think you're disgusting, but I really am your friend. Slowly leading to, wow, I think I might be a little bit in love with you, lead to a romance. And I definitely would say this is very romantic. This couple knows each other by the time they first have sex. And they are completely attracted to the other person's heart and soul and their insides. They don't find anything about the person attractive. There are two races. This is a political marriage. There's no chance of children between the two of them. This is supposed to be an in-name only situation. And our heroine basically has to get like carted off to go live with him. Ildiko is the name of the heroine, and Brishan is our hero. And they fall in love like so slowly and softly, but it's so beautiful because they're so kind and understanding of each other. And when there are like faux pas that they have because they're not from each other's cultures, they take the time to explain it to each other. And again, to just be compassionate and lovely. And so I definitely would say this is a very romantic book. Absolutely. I understand why it's a favorite. Torn by Carrie Ann Cole. I have read this one. It was a while ago. I didn't rate this one super highly. I'm a bit of an outlier compared to some of my friends. I'm not the hugest fan of Carian Cole's writing. There were some other ones people recommended by her as well that didn't make this list because, like I said, I only took 25. But actually, Asher and Lucas were also recommended. And it's not that I disliked the books by hers I've read, because I did go through a phase where I blew through a ton of her books. Like, I read Torn and Tide, and I read 4 of the Ashes and Embers books. But there's just a lot of, like, I don't want to say overdramatics because romance is overdramatics for me. But this is one that I liked their relationship, but it also was, like, this was one of the more uncomfortable age gaps that I've read. And I know that I'm in the minority. Absolutely. I will take the heat for it. I absolutely understand. And I do think there's a lot of beautiful parts of it. And I know, again, I know a lot of people just absolutely adore this, but it wasn't for me. It wasn't for me. Oh, this one, 4 people said this book, and it put the biggest fucking smile on my face. And it's funny that I just swore when I'm about to talk about this book. But Redeeming Love was on my list 4 times. Oh, you guys make me so happy. I think it's probably on a lot of people's minds since the film just came out recently, which I know I was going to do a review of the film and I didn't, and I'm sorry, but I just couldn't accurately articulate, like, how beautiful this story is to me. I read this book at the very, very beginning of my channel. I don't know if I did a separate review for it. I probably didn't. I probably actually blocked the video by this point because it was a long time ago, and I did not make super great videos back then. But this book is a historical romance that is kind of sort of a retelling of Hosea from the Bible. And our heroine Angel is a prostitute. She was forced to live that life. She is the daughter of a prostitute who gets put out by her protector, and then her mother dies horribly from disease, and she gets forced into prostitution as a 9-year-old and lives her whole life being mistreated by men, and because she's beautiful, only appreciated for her body. And then Michael Hosea, who is looking for a wife, God tells him to marry Angel. And he does. And Angel thinks he's crazy. She doesn't want to be with him, but she's like, I'm going to eventually die being a prostitute, so why don't I go with this crazy guy? And he relentlessly, like, pursues her, but in a way that is just, it's so beautiful to me. And I know that this book doesn't work for everybody because it is heavily faith-based, the Christian faith-based, and I know it won't work for everyone. But this book touched me so much because, number one, I am a Christian, and I don't apologize for that. And I also love this because it isn't a clean version of a Bible Christian story, okay? Like, it is ugly. It is raw. Francine Rivers, this was the first book she wrote after she became a Christian herself, so she wasn't trying to write to the market of writing a Christian romance. She was just writing the story that came to her, where she was trying to, you know, like, deal with her own feelings about becoming a Christian and having guilt for her past and wanting to, like, start fresh and all of those things that, again, will mean more to you if you're a Christian, but I do think you can still appreciate it. I understand if you don't even want to try it. I'm not pushing it on you, but this is in my top most romantic books I've ever read, and even just, like, thinking about it, I could work myself into a puddle of tears. I absolutely adore this book. So this is high on the list for me. So, like I said, it made me very happy that for so many other people, it's high on the list for them too. Okay, so then we have Edenbrook by Julianne Donaldson. And I have not read this one, so let's read the description for this. This one says, Marianne Daventry will do anything to escape the boredom of Bath and the amorous attentions of an unwanted suitor. So when an invitation arrives from her twin sister, Cicely, to join her at a sprawling country estate, she jumps at the chance. Thinking she'll be able to relax and enjoy her beloved English countryside while her sister snags the handsome heir to Edenbrook, Marianne finds that even the best laid plans can go awry. From a terrifying run-in with a highwayman to a seemingly harmless flirtation, Marianne finds herself embroiled in an unexpected adventure filled with enough romance and intrigue to keep her mind racing. Will Marianne be able to rein in her traitorous heart, or will a mysterious stranger sweep her off her feet? Fate had something other than a relaxing summer in mind when it sent Marianne to Edenbrook. Interesting. All right. Okay. So my question is, how smutty is it? Because I'm very interested. But I also wonder if it's smutty. I mean, that can definitely be a reason for someone to think it's very romantic. It doesn't have to be sexy. I just don't know. Interesting. Oh. Okay, so I had someone say, it says it's squeaky clean. So for the have I read it, will I read it part of this, the answer is no, because someone literally told me it's squeaky clean. But I can see why it'd be very romantic. It looks like it is kind of like a Pride and Prejudice type thing. So I definitely understand why someone else would say it's one of the most romantic books that they read. But for me, will I read it? No. The squeaky clean puts me off very quickly. But if you, the one watching this, are interested in kind of a Pride and Prejudice retelling, I see some people commenting that it reminded them of kind of like fan fiction for Pride and Prejudice. So that's kind of cool. All right, then I'm going to make some people mad with this one. But All Roads Lead Here by Mariana Zapata. This is her most recent release. So let me read there's just a nice short blurb for this one. It says, losing people you love is hard. Aurora de la Tour knows moving back to a place that was once home isn't going to be easy. Starting your whole life over probably isn't supposed to be. But a small town in the mountains might be the perfect remedy for a broken heart. Checking out her landlord across the driveway just might be the cure to it. So, I know a lot of people are loving this book. I know a lot of people love MZ, and she is a favorite author for a lot of people. I have two main reasons why I won't read her, and my wonderful longtime viewers, you'll probably know what it is. Number one, I know that all of her books are a slow burn, and I know all of her books have very minimal smut in them. And so when you put those two things together for me, there's no way on God's green earth that I will ever read it. So, well, I completely agree that someone would say some of her, like that this book could be the most romantic book you've ever read. Have I read it? No. Will I read it? Absolutely not. I cannot think of a scenario where I will ever read a Mariana Zapata, even though I get pressured quite regularly by certain people, friends and stuff. Like, I just don't have the desire to have that long of a book that's a slow burn, because I'm okay with a slow burn. But a slow burn for me means that I get smut at like 60 to 70%. And I know that some of her books only have one sex scene in them and other books have none. And I would just have such bad lady blue balls. We just don't want to do that to me. We don't want to do that to me. So that was a no for me. Then When Beauty Tames the Beast by Eloisa James, which I thought I had a copy of, but I cannot find it. So I can't hold it up. But I have read it. And I would say this one is very romantic. I absolutely love Eloisa James. I love her entire fairy tale series. And obviously this one's a Beauty and the Beast retelling. I love our heroine. I love the hero in this. I would definitely call this one romantic. Then, I'm going to surprise people with this one too. Someone recommended Untouchable as one of their most romantic reads. Well, y'all know this is one of my favorite books, and it's one of my favorite romances. But I would absolutely not say that this is romantic. Like, I think this is an anti-romance. I often say that this one, like, it's just not. Like, it is a romance in the technical sense that, like, there's sex happening. They end up together in the end. There's a happily for now, happily ever after for them. But I don't think you could find a least romantic man than Carter Mahoney. I don't think there's any romance that happens in this book, like, at all. Again, still one of my favorite books that I've ever read that is a romance. But I would not call this romantic in any sense, like at all, at all. But one of my favorite books, and I love that it showed up on this list because I was very happy to get to say that, like, don't go to this book for like flowers and cakes and roses, because it's not there. Carter Mahoney's not giving you that. Mine Till Midnight by Lisa Kleypas. This one is, oh no. Yep. My copy with a step back is very fragile. This one is the first book in the Hathaway series. This is Cam and Amelia. Cam is a Romani. He actually works at Evie's, her dad's club, and he's become kind of like a self-made man. And Amelia is the oldest daughter of the Hathaways, and she's kind of been keeping things together. Her parents died a few years back. Her brother Leo is constantly in trouble and causing issues for her, and she goes to London with their servant slash friend Mary Penn, to bring Leo home, and Cam meets her for the first time there and is just kind of like stunned by her. And then they keep running into each other at different times, and he really decides that he wants her, and she is very like, I'm not going to be with anyone. I don't want to be with anyone because I'm tough and I can do everything on my own. And Cam is like, woman, we're going to be together and I'm going to help you. It's happening. And I just love that because Amelia's so strong, and Cam loves that she's strong, but he also wants to take care of her. He also wants to take care of her. And I love that. So, while this one I still don't think is my most romantic Lisa Kleypas, I do love this couple and their romance so much because, like, Cam, he is pursuing Amelia, and I love that. I love that. Then someone said Saint by Sierra Simone. This is her most recent release in the Bell Brothers series, in the Priest series. This one is about a monk and his ex-boyfriend slash fiance, and they are back together because I think it's Eli. Is it Eli and I can't remember the other hero's name. He is like a reporter, kind of a journalist, and he goes to the monastery where our hero is to write about the brewing. The monks actually brew beer that they use to help like fund their like mission and everything, and they spend some time traveling together to write this article, and they're also kind of working out their issues because Eli is supposed to, is it Elliot or Eli? I don't know. You guys know. He is going to be marrying someone else, supposedly. So I would definitely call this very romantic. I mean, Sierra Simone writes erotic romance better than pretty much anyone else. Like, just laying it out there. She writes absolutely romantic, erotic romance. It's beautiful. So I would call this very romantic. It's agony. That's the thing. Some people want that super high amount of angst. It hurts me. Like, I get my guts hurt when I read Sierra Simone books, and they are amazing. They're amazing, but like, there's so much pain. So would I call this very romantic? I would. It's also extremely painful. There's also a lot of mental health issues talked about in this one, so know that. Our hero is also self-harming himself with a cock cage. He's using it as punishment and for chastity, and he's using it in a way of self-harm. So just want to put those out there. I want to talk about it. But would I call this very romantic? I would call it pretty romantic. All right, then we have How to Fail at Flirting by Denise Williams. Let's read the blurb for this one. This one says, one daring to-do list and a crash course in flirtation turn a type A overachiever's world upside down. When her failing department lands on the university's chopping block, Professor Naya Turner's friends convince her to shed her frumpy cardigan for an evening on the town. For one night, her focus will stray from her demanding job, and she'll tackle a new kind of to-do list. When she meets a charming stranger in town on business, he presents the perfect opportunity to check off the items on her list. Let the guy buy her a drink? Check. Try something new? Check. A no strings attached hookup? Check. Almost. Jake makes her laugh and challenges Nia to rebuild her confidence, which was left toppled by her abusive ex-boyfriend. Soon she's flirting with a chance at some more serious romantic relationship, except nothing can be easy. The complicated strings around her dating Jake might destroy her career. Nia has two options. She can protect her professional reputation and return to her old life, or she can flirt with the unknown and stay with the person who makes her feel like she's finally living again. Man, that is a compelling blurb. I'm nervous by the illustrated cover because illustrated covers, I've been burned before, but the person who recommended this one, because I know who recommended this one, makes me want to try it. I'm going to put it on my TBR. I clicked it. We'll see though. It might not be for sure that it happens, but I'm willing to be open to that one. So we'll call that one a maybe. All right, we just have two left. Someone said that the Antiheroes in Love duet by Giana Darling, my ring light's getting really blurry, that this duet is one of their most romantic. And I agree with this one. I agree with this one wholeheartedly. I love how Dante loves Elena. I love how he pursues her. I love how Elena has made herself an ice queen with good reason, because her family is fucking awful. They're awful. Not that she's a princess. She's definitely not a perfect princess. She is a bitch. She is. But the way that Dante is this fun-loving mafia boss who can also be serious and break someone, but the way that he loves her is so beautiful. Like, it's beautiful. Sorry, I keep hugging the books and not like showing them. I love it. I love it. So I wholeheartedly agree that this is a very romantic book. And of Giana Darling's books, this duet is probably my favorite. I've read quite a few at this point too. And then the last one is one I haven't read. And this one is a Judith McNaught, and it is Paradise, which I know this one is on my viewer rec form too. Wow, this one has a very high rating. Wow. This one has 32,000 ratings, and it has a 4.3. That's pretty good. Let's read the blurb. Oh, this one is a contemporary by Judith McNaught. Fascinating. Fascinating. Okay, this one says, corporate raider Matthew Farrell had come a long way from the poor, scruffy kid of Indiana's steel mills. A long way from the country club where, feeling like an outsider, he had dared to fall in love with a beautiful blonde named Meredith Bancroft, and known a once-in-a-lifetime passion and betrayal that still haunted his memory. Now world leaders courted him, the media watched his every move, and he was ready to move in on the Bancroft empire. Ooh, he wants to take her business. A cool, poised executive in her family's legendary department store chain, Meredith had once defied her father for the sexually magnetic, intense Matt Farrell, and their brief, ill-fated marriage, they were married, was the disastrous outcome. Now, as the Bancroft firm is threatened by a hostile takeover, Meredith is forced to confront Matt. As tensions between them, bittersweet memories rise to the surface, leaving them suspicious, restless, and uncertain. Will they be able to believe in each other and grasp the tender miracle that is before them? Wow. Also, this came out in 1991, and it's a contemporary. So that's amazing. I mean, have I read it? Will I read it? I have not read it. I will read this. This is already on, like I said, my recommendation form. I'm very interested to read a contemporary by Judith McNaught. Very interested. The scenario of this second chance romance is interesting to me. But I'm always willing to give second chance romances a try because I really believe in them. So, yeah, I'm willing to read that one. So there we go. We're all done. That was 25 of books that you said were the most romantic reads you've ever read. I hope I didn't hurt anyone. I was just trying to make this fun. I hope you're having a wonderful week of love, whether you are going to be reading romance or you get to experience it yourself. I hope you have a wonderful time. Thank you so much if you made it all the way through this book. Leave me a nice pink or red heart down below if you made it all the way to the end because I need to see that love. And yeah, make sure you subscribe to the channel for more recommendations. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.